I am going to pick one LeetCode easy problem at random. I'm going to select pick one, and we're going to see what we land on. Why am I picking easy this time? Because last time I picked medium, got time limit exceeded, and we're going to get a quick win here. So you'll be able to see my process really quickly with how I go about solving problems, whether I solve the problem or not. I should solve, hopefully, because I've selected easy. And we're gonna get started. Design neighbor sum service. You are given a n by n 2D array grid containing distinct elements in the range. Implement the neighbor sum class. Neighbor sum int grid initializes the object. An adjacent sum value. Return the sum of the elements or adjacent of value that is either to the top, left, right, or bottom of value in grid. Int diagonal sum int value returns the sum of elements which are diagonal neighbors of value that is either the top left, top right, bottom left, or bottom right of value in grid. So I think I have a pretty good idea, a pretty good gist of how to solve the problem. The issue that I'm having is finding an efficient way to solve the problem, because right now when I look at this, I don't really see a way around iterating through the entire 2D grid to get the correct value, to get the value that I need. So we're gonna see what happens. I'm gonna start with the brute force way and then see if I can come up with something a little bit more efficient. So let me type out to explain what I'm thinking a little bit here as far as a solution. So first I'll iterate through the 2D array. 2D array. I will check for the value in each of the functions, the adjacent and diagonal functions. Before either of those things, I will create global grid variable and set it. Or I'll just say create grid variable. It's just inside of the class for the functions access. Check for value. And then once I find that value, I'll return sum of adjacent and diagonal values. That's it. So I'll go ahead and start writing that. So grid equals 2D array. Self.grid is equal to grid. I'm going to iterate through the grid. So I'll say for row in 0 to grid.count. And then I will do the same thing for this. Except I will pass in row and call this column. And I'll say if grid row column is equal to value, then I'll add all values. And it should be the same thing for the diagonal sum as well. It's just going to be a matter of figuring out how to adjust the direction in a way to where I can go adjacent and diagonal, which should be pretty easy. So one thing I want to consider here as well is trying not to go out of bounds for each of these values. So I think what I'll do is I'll create like a separate function for grid, for getting the grid value. So grid value, where I will pass in a row integer and a column integer, and I'll return an integer. And then I have to check for each of these. So I'll do guard row is less than grid.count, and row is greater than or equal to 0, else return 0. I'll do the same thing for column. Column, row, then column. And I do that because I just don't want to get the crash for trying to access row with grid before I've checked that row is okay. I mean, it probably, if I just put it further down the guard, it probably would be fine. But I just want to get through it as quickly as possible. So if those two things work, I will just return grid, row, column. And then I'll use this get value for each of the directions. So I will say left equals get value row, then column -1. Say right should be +1. I'll say top should be +1. And then I will say bottom should be -1. And we just return all those values added. So left plus right plus top plus bottom. And we'll do the same thing down here, essentially. But it'll be top left, top left. Top left would be row +1. Top right would be row +1. Row +1, column +1. Bottom left would be row -1, column -1. Bottom right would be row -1, column +1. And then I'll add all these top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right. And this should do it. This should be it. So I'll go ahead and try to run this and see if we've got it. Okay, get value and scope. Oh, grid value. I see. So I just called it the wrong thing. Grid value, and I'll copy all these. Did I have anything else? Convert expression of type string to int. Return type int. Where's that? So line 47. Return it. Well, I'm missing a return here. So return 0. And then here as well, return 0. Integer. Let's try again. Okay, good deal. Now submit. Okay, well, I have it correct, but we can probably be quite a bit more efficient. And sort of on the front of it, I knew that would be the case. Let's think about this for a second. There's no ordering, so I can't do off the top of my head. I can't think of like a more efficient search or anything like that. I'll leave it there. Really the idea behind these things is just to learn how to think out the process of each of these problems, and just the fact that we make an attempt to try and address the more efficient solution is good practice for any interview that you may have in the future. If you want to see a problem that I did not get right, click the video and you'll be able to see a scenario where I don't get the problem right.